Now, what if I told you discipline don't rewire your brain, repetition does? That's why propaganda works better than your morning workout. Whatever floods your timeline becomes your gospel. You believe it completely, find evidence to prove it, and become addicted to information that only confirms what you already think is true. As a 56-year-old man, I can find evidence online to prove any belief, no matter how twisted. We think we're too smart for this type of manipulation while being the walking, breathing examples of people who've been tricked by these very propaganda techniques and social engineering. Tonight, I will show you the exact propaganda playbook used repeatedly to incite gender wars, race wars, ethnic wars, and economic wars for over centuries worldwide. My name is Tijuana Jackson. I'm a clarity coach and mindset specialist. I help you find clarity and purpose through confronting the pain you didn't even know you was carrying. You want to sign up for my free coaching? Link is in the description. I normally keep these deep dive conversations behind the paywall of my online correctional facility. That's where we really break down how the machine operates and how it affects us psychologically. But America is in a state of emergency right now. So I'm bringing this public tonight because some truth can't wait for subscriptions. Boss, this message could save lives. So share it with your real ones and let the games begin. Now, let's start with Nazi Germany's internal enemies. Internal enemies. Lock that in. And propaganda machine. And Germany's just the appetizer, okay? Because I'm fixing to demonstrate how prominent figures across the globe have used this propaganda playbook for centuries and why we eat it up like free samples at Costco. The Nazis didn't just blame the Jews randomly. They studied mass psychology and discovered something profound as fuck. Humans need an internal enemy to maintain group cohesion when facing external pressure. What does that mean? What? It means when a group of people is being threatened by outsiders, they often pick someone from their own group to blame for their problems. This person becomes the symbolic bad guy that everybody can be mad at together, which actually keep the rest of the group from fighting with each other. Think of it like having someone to bully inside your own team so everybody else stay friends. Or it's like being the token black dude on the cast of a TV show. Dr. Karen Hornsey's research on anxiety showed that when people feel economically insecure, they project their fear on the available targets. The Nazis weaponized this by creating what psychologists call splitting. That's splitting, splitting. Forcing people to see the world as all good versus all evil. We talk about this a lot in my online community. This conditioning starts deliberately from childhood through stories that always feature clear heroes versus clear villains. Training your brain to categorize complex situations into oversimplified moral frameworks. When media outlets label someone the enemy or the bad guy, you automatically transfer all negative associations to that person without critically examining the nuances of their actual actions or motivations. You feel me? You lose the capacity to recognize that individuals can simultaneously exhibit both constructive and destructive behaviors. And this binary worldview makes populations extremely susceptible to propaganda because once someone receives that villain designation, people will accept any negative narrative about them without verification. Pause. It's like your brain being chauffeured by a rookie Uber driver from another country. You just along for the ride, dog. Here's what most people miss. The powers that be, they use euphemistic language like evacuation and resettlement because even genocidal regimes need plausible deniability for their own supporters. And all this means is they do this because even the people who support these bad governments need to feel like they're not doing something totally evil. So the fake nice words help people tell themselves, oh, we just helping people move, instead of admitting that they hurting innocent people. It's like when a bully says they just joking around instead of admitting that they being mean. Or like when a woman says entanglement rather than saying she was getting her back blown out by a young bull. The nicer words make it easy for everyone to pretend nothing bad is happening. Y'all feeling me? But by doing this, during the rise of the Nazis, the average German could participate in genocide while maintaining psychological distance through linguistic buffers. Nice words. Today's corporate media uses the same technique. Enhanced interrogation instead of torture. Collateral damage instead of murdered civilians. The language creates emotional distance from the moral reality. Type bars in the comments if you get that. It's like watching your favorite politician promise police reform while increasing police budgets and granting them autonomy. Same energy, different costume. Now, when you look at how the Russian Revolution and the protocols of the elders of Zion operated, you're seeing the blueprint for modern conspiracy distribution. In other words, when you look at how Russia's big revolution and this fake story called the protocols of the elders of Zion was spread around, you're seeing the instruction manual for how conspiracy theories get shared today. Boom. The same tricks that they used back then to get people to believe the lies and get angry at the wrong people are the exact same tricks being used on your phone and computer right now. Right now. They just swapped out carrier pigeons for TikTok, but kept the same playbook to reaffirm your stupidity. But no, this wasn't just anti-juice propaganda. It was the first mass distributed conspiracy theory designed to redirect class anger away from economic systems and towards ethnic targets instead. Y'all understand how dangerous that is? What this means is the people in charge didn't just spread mean lies about the juicy people. They created a fake story that got shared everywhere to trick the average $2 in the tank fool. The aim was not just to redirect economic anger. It was about redirecting all kinds of frustrations, military defeat, national humiliation, economic collapse, social upheaval toward the juicy people instead of examining the real systemic causes. Follow me, follow me, follow me. Boom! So instead of being mad at rich people or unfair money systems that was making their lives harder, they wanted people to blame the juices instead. This was one of the first times anyone used this trick on such a huge scale, getting millions of people to be angry at the wrong group instead of fixing the real problems that were making everyone poor and unhappy. The document literally plagiarized earlier fictional works, but presented them as leaked evidence, kind of like how rappers do sex tapes today. Y'all get that? Like a Drake album, right? You pretend to leak it, but you're really putting it out. Now, what made it brilliant was the conspiracy framework itself. Any evidence against the theory became proof of how deep the conspiracy went. This is the psychological trap of modern deep state theories. Peep it. Their immunity to contradictory evidence because contradiction feeds the narrative. Like when a crackhead show up, you and your homies hanging out, and a crackhead show up and say she's pregnant with your baby. The more you say you didn't hit, the more guilty you look. The real genius was making working class Russians blame the juicy bankers for capitalism instead of capitalism itself. My personal opinion, there's such a thing as ugly capitalism versus conscious capitalism, okay? And I found this paper titled Conscious Capitalism versus Rapacious Capitalism, Lessons from King Leopold II. Look it up if you're interested, but that's the title. But your Twitter timeline runs the same algorithm to keep you mad at cultural symptoms instead of economic causes. The British colonial divide and rule tactics in India, Cyprus, and Africa represented something that economists now call strategic ethnic positioning. Listen, strategic ethnic positioning. Y'all following me? Purple Haze said that crackhead story sounded personal. Hey, man, stay out of my life, okay? So, the British didn't just randomly pit groups against each other. They artificially created middle management ethnic hierarchies. So, these is global house Negroes. In Cyprus, they positioned Turkish Cypriots as the police force against the Greek Cypriots. In India, they elevated certain castes over others for administrative roles. They created what sociologist Pierre Bourdieu called competitive collaboration, making oppressed groups police each other for scraps of privilege. Buzz. This is like two brothers fighting over the one white girl in the hood who weigh more than the both of them combined and already got 3 baby daddies. The psychological brilliance was making horizontal violence feel like upward mobility. Y'all get that? Horizontal violence feel like upward mobility. Today's gig economy runs the same hustle. Uber drivers competing against each other instead of organizing against Uber. Every time you see minority groups fighting over representation instead of resource distribution, you're watching a colonial divide and rule tactic in real time. Are y'all following me? When we examine the Rwandan genocide and hate radio through RTLM, basically public access TV, we looking at the first successful test of mass media psychological programming. The Hutu-dominated government didn't just broadcast hate. They used sophisticated psychological techniques developed by Edward Bernays and refined by the CIA behavioral scientists. Oh, it run that deep. They started with economic grievances, which was real, and slowly shifted blame from structural problems to ethnic targets, which was all manufactured and made up. The programming worked through repetition, emotional escalation, and social proof, basically the same principles behind modern social media algorithms right now. Are y'all following me? The difference between RTLM, public television, public access TV, and your Facebook feed, and this is where it gets dangerous, is that Facebook has better data on your psychological vulnerabilities. Both systems work by hijacking your threat detection mechanisms and redirecting them toward politically useful targets. What this means is Russia tried out their internet attack tricks on a small country called Estonia in 2007 to see if they would work. They spread fake news and attacked Estonia's computers to mess up their government and confuse their people. And it was like practicing on a smaller target before going after bigger countries. Y'all feel that? This was basically Russia testing out how to use the internet and fake information as weapons against countries that let people vote and make their own choices so they could use these same tricks later on in bigger places like the United States of America. By the way, y'all, now would be a good time to hit the like button if you like something. And if you're motivated as hell, hit that notification bell, boss. Now, matter of fact, don't hit the notification bell and I'll tell you why. Because this is a little off brand for me, okay? This is the stuff I do in my online community. Like I said, if you're interested, the link is in the description. What I really do here, right? Like I said, I focus on personal development and not through burning incense and shit like that. My life goal is to help people find purpose and find clarity by weaning them off this psychological hamster wheel that they've subscribed themselves and their children to. And so that's the focus of this channel. What I'm spitting right now is a bit off brand, but it does apply. And we actually have a section in my online correctional facility, a space called Media Literacy, where we discuss stuff like this. Okay. But after controversial decisions over Soviet-era monuments, Russian language media and online disinformation campaigns fueled unrest among Estonia's Russian minority, followed by the first ever cyber attack against an entire country. And what made this revolutionary was combining traditional ethnic division tactics with cyber warfare capabilities. They proved that you could destabilize a NATO country without firing a single shot. Bars. Just weaponize existing social tensions through targeted misinformation. Y'all follow that? Y'all understand? Let me know if you get what I'm saying. Y'all understand that? They realized that they could take over every trap house in your hood simply by pitting the light-skinned trappers against the dark-skinned trappers, by pitting the male dope fiends against the female dope fiends, and pitting the non-users against the police force. And this became the template for the 2016 U.S. election interference. Cambridge Analytica, boom! How about this? Brexit manipulation also fell subject to it. And every subsequent hybrid warfare campaign that followed, bars. Did y'all know that? They realized that democracies be vulnerable to their own information system. Look at British colonial Nigeria and how they encouraged ethnic fragmentation for resource control. Now, what this means is when Britain controlled Nigeria, they purposely made different ethnic groups fight with each other so they could stay in charge and take Nigeria's valuable resources. Instead of letting all the Nigerian people work together, which might have made them strong enough to kick Britain out, the British encouraged different tribes and ethnic groups to distrust and compete with each other. And this kept everybody busy fighting each other instead of fighting against British rule, which made it much easier for Britain to control the country and steal his oil, steal his minerals, and other valuable things without much resistance at all. It's kind of like gentrification in the hood. The British didn't create ethnic differences between Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa Fulani groups. They weaponized existing cultural differences by creating artificial scarcity and competitive resource allocations. Is everybody following that? They'd favor one group for administrative posts, another for military recruitment, and a third for trade privileges, ensuring no group could achieve enough power to challenge colonial authority. The psychological mechanism was divide the benefits, unite the blame. Bars. When people compete for artificially limited opportunities, they blame each other instead of questioning why opportunities are limited to begin with. Modern corporate America runs the same program. Diversity quotas that pit marginalized groups against each other for predetermined slots instead of expanding actual power structures. The CIA media operations in Guatemala through Operation TV Success represents the first successful merger of psychological warfare and media manipulation. Y'all know about that one? To retain control for the United Fruit Company, the CIA didn't just stage a coup. They created an entirely fabricated media reality. They broadcast fake news about imminent invasions, fake radio plays about communist atrocities, and fake testimonials from concerned citizens. The operation succeeded because they understood that reality is socially constructed through the shared information sources of the collective. So whatever we use to gather our information is how our realities are shaped. I see somebody quoting statistics. Have you confirmed those statistics? This is social engineering. If you control the information environment, you control perceived reality. Today's information warfare is on another level. Its capabilities make Guatemala look like amateur night at the local karaoke spot. Cambridge Analytica, state-sponsored bot networks, and algorithmic manipulation can manufacture consent on a scale the CIA never imagined. So when you study the Committee on Public Information during World War I, you're looking at the birth of modern propaganda as a professional discipline. Pause. The CPI, they didn't just promote war, they invented the entire field of public relations by merging psychology, marketing, and political messaging. Pause. They hired academics to study mass psychology, artists to create emotional appeals, and journalists to manufacture consensus. The 4-Minute Men program trained speakers to deliver precisely timed propaganda presentations in movie theaters nationwide, basically creating the first national network of influencers. Are y'all getting this? Now, before we go on, I just want to explain. I think a lot of people are a bit confused about how power actually works. And since it's in the title, I should explain it. But it go like this. The banks control the world. The banks hire corporations to influence culture. And then the corporations use influencers and politicians to convey that desired reality. Y'all feel that? Get it? The banks hire the corporations. The corporations use influencers and politicians, right, to carry out the mission. Why do the banks hire the corporations? They hire the corporations because they need the corporations to influence culture. Now, the first time I can actually track this structure is during the Nixon era when he designated 10 companies, 10 corporations that were going to represent the voice of America. Okay? But what made this revolutionary was treating public opinion as a manufactured product rather than a natural phenomenon. Edward Bernays later called this, listen, the engineering of consent. The idea that the democratic could be manufactured. Democracy could be manufactured through scientific manipulation of public psychology. Pause. The Myanmar Rohingya crisis. And Facebook misinformation represents the evolution of genocide from radio to digital platforms. Buddhist hardliners didn't just spread hate speech. They used Facebook's own algorithms to amplify anti-Rohingya content because the platform rewards engagement over accuracy. Facebook's recommendation system actually learned that hate content generates more clicks, more comments, and more shares than neutral information. So the algorithm began promoting genocidal content organically. Family, this wasn't an accident, fam. It was algorithmic optimization working exactly as designed. The platform's business model requires capturing and manufacturing user attention, user fear, user anger, and hate towards the most reliable attention capturing emotions. Buzz. Facebook and its executives knew that their platform was being used to coordinate ethnic cleansing, but chose profit over human lives. Pause. These ain't just separate historical events. They are iterative improvements on the same fundamental technology of social control. Each case study taught power structures, more sophisticated methods of manufacturing consent, redirecting anger, and preventing unified resistance. Bars. Think about this. The progression from radio propaganda to television manipulation to algorithmic social control represents increasing precision in behavioral modification. Think about this shit. Is it too late for some of y'all to hear this? Are you so caught up in the propaganda and the constant baiting that you cannot look away like a PDF strolling through Disney World? We've gone from broadcasting the same messages to everybody to now delivering personalized psychological manipulation based on individual behavioral data. Who get that? Who get that? What that means is, once upon a time, we would all sit down in front of a TV or in front of some type of communication device or broadcasting device, and we would give this device our undivided attention as a nation, and they would feed us propaganda through this device, whether it was the television, radio, what have you, a film. But today, they are able to provide you, based on all the data they have about your psychological disposition, your triggers, etc., they're able to provide you individually. Do y'all understand that? So what does that tell you? How does that apply to right now? These patterns reveal something crucial. Every divide and conquer strategy requires 3 elements. Pay attention, because this is where we get very current. Real grievances, artificial scarcity, and redirected blame. I want y'all to repeat that with me. Every divide and conquer strategy requires 3 elements. Real grievances, artificial scarcity, redirected blame. People need actual problems to feel angry about, but the solutions must be designed to benefit power structures rather than solve problems. The art is making horizontal violence feel like vertical mobility, making competition for scraps feel like revolution, and making symptoms feel like causes. What, y'all thought y'all came for the jokey joke this evening? We don't get down like that. Any questions? Understanding these mechanics, it ain't about becoming paranoid. It's about developing immunity through pattern recognition. When you see the same emotional manipulation techniques across centuries and cultures, you start recognizing them in real time. When politicians, media figures, or social media algorithms try to make you hate your neighbors, you can ask, well, wait a minute, who actually benefits from this division? When they offer simple solutions to complex problems, you can ask, well, what are they distracting me from? And when they promise to save you from other poor people, you can ask, why aren't they asking to save your ass from the rich people? Someone just said, someone just asked me, what did you ask? He said, he's asking, what was the third need? So the third need, we got real grievances is number 1, artificial scarcity is number 2, and redirected blame is number 3. You heard me? Did I get you? Did I top you off? You good? Thank you. Let's pin that. Thank you, Kimoni. So look, we got to wisen up. The real divide and conquer. Y'all ready for this? It happens in your mind first. They need you to believe that your economic insecurity comes from other insecure people rather than secure people hoarding resources. Pause. I make myself laugh. They need you to believe that cultural differences cause conflict, so you don't get to see how these economic systems profit from conflict. They need you to believe that information warfare is someone else's problem rather than the water you swim in every day. And if you like me, you peeing in that motherfucker instead of getting out and walking into that air-conditioned bathroom, you hear me? Your liberation starts with understanding that you ain't crazy for feeling like everything is psychological warfare. Because everything is psychological warfare. The question isn't whether you're being manipulated. It's whether you're conscious enough to choose you and your children's own manipulation feed. Pause. Oh. Do you remain unconscious to accept they feed? Pause. Okay, TJ, we get it. The world is falling apart. Your anxiety is through the roof. I get it. And propaganda is at an all-time high. But contrary to popular belief, you are actually in control. Really? How? You have the power to carry out a modern day disruption unlike anything that's ever been seen before. You think Target got it bad when people boycotted? Do you know what would happen if you chose to unplug, delete the apps, end the subscriptions, hang out with your kids, pick up a hobby, learn a trade, wean yourself off those repeated dopamine hits? Instead of being a consumer for the majority of your free time, focus on being a producer of something. Write your book on better hygiene for the homeless, or tackle your passion project, work on your body, work on your relationship. Do anything but scroll, watch, and subject yourself to more of the same. The consequences? Well, the entire manipulation machine collapses overnight. No clicks, no views. No engagement means no ad revenue. No ad revenue means no funding for the propaganda. And no funding means the people controlling your mind lose their power to control your mind. Boss, they need you. They need you plugged in more than you need them. Boss, the moment you realize that this nigga right here is telling you 100, well, family, that's the moment you become dangerous. Dangerous to who? You become dangerous to the entire system. The media outlets that you have caught lying repeatedly over time, the timeline feeds that get hijacked by foreign countries and highest bidders, the propagandist movies, you already know you can't trust them. So what are you holding on to exactly? Look, fam, my name is Tijuana Jackson. I'm the people's mentor. I help grown folks find clarity and purpose in their life by confronting the pain that they didn't even know they was carrying. And if you'd like to join my online community, the link is in the description. You want to get my free coaching, link is in the description. Thank you for lending me your bandwidth. You have more power than you've been led to believe. It takes a lot of courage. A lot of courage to do absolutely nothing. Boss. Good night, America. I hope you take this message to heart. The power truthfully is in your attention and where you choose to focus it. I'm going to tune out so that I can have a deeper conversation with my online community. To the rest of y'all in the public space, it's up to you. Spread this message. I want you to hit the like button. I want you to share this good word. I want you to absorb this information, listen to it repeatedly. I know it's pretty dense, But stillness is the move. And so I'm not going to try to come up with no utopia and, oh, all people got to come together. No, all people need to disconnect. We need to unplug. It stopped right there. You're going to either live facing your fears or you're going to die tasting your tears. Pause. If you want something different, do something different, and life ain't going to get better unless you do. Pause. My name is Tijuana Jackson. Have a good night.